Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the NBA DFS Core Pick video for today, Thursday, February 8th. If you join me for the very first time, this is the way today's video will be structured. We'll be going over a recap of yesterday's picks, seeing how they ultimately ended up turning out. After that, we'll go over to the injury report over on RotoWire, talk through all the injuries in play for tonight's slate overall. Then after that, we'll get over to both DraftKings and FanDuel and talk about my core picks on both sites. It's going to be one player at each position. So point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. And before we get started, I just want to point out that today is the NBA trade deadline. There's going to be quite a few trades probably going on throughout the day. Probably not any ones that are like too major, but a lot of role players probably switching hands from some of the lesser teams to some of the better teams at this point in time. Could very much change the core picks throughout the day, so definitely make sure you're checking up for that updated core as we do get closer to lock today overall. But without further ado, we'll get started with that recap of yesterday's picks. So on the DraftKings side, at point guard, we went to Aaron Fox, $8,100. Looked like a really good value versus the Detroit Pistons yesterday. Unfortunately, only got to 34.25 points, so he was a mess. 5 for 14 shooting from the field. Not the greatest day for him overall. He only ended up having 12 points, and they actually lost that game, which was kind of surprising. But, you know, the Pistons played well for what it's worth, even though they probably were playing without their two best players. So that was kind of interesting. And then at shooting guard, we had Terry Rozier, $6,000. Looking for at least 30 out of him. He'd been up over that in his most recent games for the Miami Heat. Unfortunately, only got 23.5, so he was a mess. He only ended up playing 28 minutes in this game. We were looking for probably like 32 minutes out of him. 5 for 15 shooting from the field, so not the greatest shooting day overall either, so just unfortunate there once again. And then at small forward, we went with Brandon Miller, $7,200, was looking for at least 36 out of him, got to 31.5. Unfortunately, was a miss as well, mainly scoring dependent yesterday. He had 20 points, but not much else yesterday, so that was just unfortunate overall. Kind of broke his streak of having those really big games overall. Then at power forward, we went with Caleb Martin, $3,800, looking for at least 19 out of him, got to 22.25, so he was a hit. And then last but not least, we had Jakob Poeltl at $5,900, looking for 29.30 out of him, got to 33, so he was a hit as well. I know early on in the day when I was looking at Jakob Poeltl, it was like he only had like one rebound throughout like a good part of the first quarter, so it was kind of scary. Thought maybe he wasn't going to hit, but you know, he came on pretty strong as the game went along. If he would have done a little bit more in the beginning of the game, would have been a guy that we really needed in our lineups yesterday, just in general. So a little bit of hit or miss on DraftKings yesterday. Obviously, if you had some other good plays, you had a chance to catch it. If not, it would have been a little bit harder just in general. And then on the FanDuel side, you know, initially at point guard, we had Ish Smith. Switched up to Peyton Pritchard. Thought, you know, with no Drew Holiday out there, he either start or play some decent-sized minutes. Unfortunately, that was not the case. We were looking for at least 22 out of him, got to 14.4. He was a mess, only played 16 minutes in this game. So just kind of unfortunate there. Mainly scored the ball off the bench, and he probably played less minutes than you would have kind of expected out of him just in general. But that was just kind of unfortunate for us yesterday. Then in shooting guard, we had Devin Vassell, $7,100. Was looking for 35, 36 out of him, got to 28.1. So he was a mess. He ended up playing 32 minutes in this game. It was a little bit of a blowout, but you know, it's pretty close for most of it, so maybe lost a minute or two here at the very end, but he was mainly scoring dependent yesterday, so it was a little bit unfortunate there. Then at small forward, we had RJ Barrett, $7,100, looking for 35, 36 out of him, got to 39.7, so he was a hit. And then at power forward, we had Caleb Martin once again, $4,600, looking for at least 23 out of him, got to exactly 23, so he was a hit as well. And then last but not least, once again, we had Jakob Poeltl, $6,100, looking for 30, 31 out of him, get to 31.4, so he was a hit. So if you had some other decent plays on FanDuel yesterday, you had a shot at cashing. A little bit unfortunate with Peyton Pritchard and Devin Vassell there, but at the same time, you know, Pritchard was just kind of a pay down option, and then Devin Vassell, you know, he wasn't the greatest, but he wasn't a guy that completely killed our lineups at the same time as well. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to RotoWire and talk about the injuries in play for tonight's slate overall. It is a 7-game main slate on both sides. There are 9 games in total, so the 2 games at the very end of the night will not be on the slate. There are 3 teams on the back-to-back. For the main slate, there's 4 teams on the back-to-back in general, so the Detroit Pistons is the last one there in that last game of the night, but we won't be talking too much about that. So we're going to get started with the Golden State Warriors. They're on the back-to-back, so we'll see what they look like throughout the day. They're also a team that could very much make it trade, whether, you know, it's trading away Klay Thompson or whether it's trading for some reinforcements to kind of bolster this team at this point in time. For the Pacers, we got Tyrese Haliburton, Benedict Mathurin, and Jalen Smith all listed as questionable. Haliburton and Smith have been listed as questionable in their most recent games and ultimately end up playing. And then Benedict Mathurin's questionable due to illness, so we'll see ultimately whether or not he is able to go tonight or not. Moving over to the Spurs, they're on the back-to-back, so we'll see what their injury report looks like as the day moves along. We'll see whether or not Victor Wembanyama does ultimately end up playing on the back-to-back or not. That could be a very big piece for tonight's slate overall. And then for the Orlando Magic side, they appear to be all the way healthy at this point in time. Then we move over to Cleveland Cavaliers, who are also on the back-to-back. So we got the 3 back-to-back teams right off the bat here, but pretty safe to assume that Ty Jerome, Tristan Thompson both will be out. We'll see whether or not Evan Mobley or Darius Garland end up sitting, since they both did recently return from injury and have been on some minutes limits. And then for the Brooklyn Nets side, we got Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, Day'Ron Sharpe, and Lonnie Walker all out once again. So pretty much what we've seen out of them in their most recent game. Then we move down to Dallas Mavericks. We got Dante Exum and Derek Lively both out once again. Maxi Kleber listed as questionable due to that toe injury, but he's been playing, he's been starting, and he's been playing 30 minutes a night as of late. So not really too much concern there with him. Obviously, if he does end up missing, then, you're going to see Dwight Powell or Rashawn Holmes get the start, and one of them could be interesting in that situation. And then we have Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, both listed as probable to play for tonight, so would expect that both of them do ultimately end up playing. For the New York Knicks side, we got OG Anunoby, Quentin Grimes, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson all out once again. Jericho Sims listed as questionable. He did miss their most recent game due to an illness. And Taj Gibson got some minutes in that game, and crazy enough that I didn't even know that they re-signed Taj Gibson. I must have missed that one somehow. And then Jalen Brunson's also questionable to play tonight. This is going to be a very, very big one for this slate overall. Obviously, if he's out, it's probably going to be Miles McBride getting the start, and he would look pretty good in that situation, which we did see a little bit earlier this year. It is an ankle sprain for Jalen Brunson. It doesn't appear to be too bad according to the reports, but we'll see whether or not he ultimately does end up missing tonight's game just in general. And then for the Minnesota Timberwolves, we got Jalen Clark. He's been out all season. And then Monte Morris, they have him kind of listed as doubtful at this point in time. They did just recently trade for him yesterday, so probably not going to play with the team tonight, as that trade does end up processing physicals and everything else like that. And then for the Milwaukee Bucks, we got Chris Middleton out once again. Damian Lillard is listed as questionable. He was dealing with an ankle injury, did miss their most recent game. And then we have 4 players listed as probable to play tonight. And Giannis Antetokounmpo with a knee injury. Jay Crowder, I believe, is with an ankle injury. Brook Lopez is expected to make his return from his personal reasons that caused him to miss a couple of games. And then Cam Payne listed with kind of like a sprained or hyperextended knee, but is expected to play tonight overall. Then we move down to the Chicago Bulls. Patrick Williams remains out. Torrey Craig listed as questionable. He did recently come back. I think he's played like 2 games now. And then, unfortunately, ultimately ended up spraining his ankles. So hopefully he's good to go tonight or relatively soon, since he's been out for quite a while. And then we have Kobe White, Dalen Terry, and Alex Caruso. All this is probable to play for tonight's game overall. And then we move over to the Memphis Grizzlies. Desmond Bane, Brandon Clark, Jake LaRavia, Victor Oladipo, Marcus Smart, and Lamar Stevens, who recently joined the team, are all out for tonight's game overall. And then Zaire Williams listed as doubtful. If he was good to go, he probably gets some minutes in this situation, but unfortunately is not able to go once again tonight. We got Derrick Rose and Jaren Jackson Jr. both listed as questionable to play. Derrick Rose did recently return, I believe, from a hamstring injury, and then ultimately ended up spraining his ankle. So kind of like the Torrey Craig side, not very good for him overall. And then Jaren Jackson Jr. has been fighting a hip injury as of late. Then we move over to the Utah Jazz. Bryce Sensabaugh is listed as questionable. He really hasn't played much for this team overall, so not going to make a big impact on them overall. They are a team that could be making some moves at the deadline, although they are up to a 500 record at this point in time. And then for the Phoenix Suns side, we got Damon Lee listed as out, and then Bradley Beal is listed as questionable. He is dealing with an ankle injury at this point in time. For the Denver Nuggets, Kankar is out once again. Contavious Caldwell-Pope listed as questionable, so we'll see whether or not he's good to go tonight or not. And then on the Lakers side, we got Cam Reddish, Jared Vanderbilt, and Gabe Vincent all out once again. And then LeBron James, Anthony Davis, as per usual, listed with their normal questionable tags. So do expect both of them to play tonight, unless we get some other news, though. And then we get down to that final game. We got the Detroit Pistons. They're on the back-to-back, so we'll see what their injury report looks like as the day moves along. They picked up a couple players yesterday in Shake Milton, Troy Brown, and Simone Fontecchio, so we'll see what type of roles those guys have going forward. Obviously, they trade away Monte Morris, and I believe it was Kevin Knox. And then on the Portland Trailblazers side, Moses Brown, Shane Sharp, both out once again. Scoot Henderson is dealing with a foot injury now, so he's questionable to play. We'll see whether or not he ultimately does end up playing. If they trade away Malcolm Brogdon today, then there could be some minutes to go around at that guard position if Brogdon gets traded and Scoot Henderson also is out. And then we have Don Drayden. This is questionable to play tonight due to an illness. And then Jabari Walker and Jeremy Grant, both this is probable to play for tonight overall as well. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown on all the injuries in play for tonight's slate overall. It's going to be a pretty interesting one. There's going to be a lot of moving parts throughout the day, especially with the trades on top of the injuries. So definitely do expect a lot of updates down in the comments as the day moves along, and definitely make sure that you're checking up for that updated core as we do get closer to the lock. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to DraftKings and talk about my core picks over there. So once again, take these core picks with a grain of salt. at the beginning of the day, there is a lot that could change throughout the day. So we're going to start off with the point guard position with Miles McBride for the New York Knicks. He is $4,100. So you're looking for 21 out of him. Looks like a decent value, even if he's coming off the bench. He's still playing solid minutes. I think he played like 30 minutes in their most recent game. Even if he's getting that at $4,100, he has a chance of paying off. But the real value lies in whether or not Jalen Brunson plays tonight or not. If Jalen Brunson doesn't play tonight, Miles McBride is going to look like a guy that we're going to need. He's going to play monster minutes like the rest of these New York Knicks starters at this point in time. They're running real thin at this point. So definitely do like him quite a bit tonight. If he's coming off the bench, you're probably getting like 22, 23 out of him. If he ultimately ends up in the starting lineup, he's a guy that probably gets you 29, 30, maybe a little bit upside for more at the same time as well. And then at shooting guard, we're going to go with Alex Caruso, $5,300, looking for 26, 27 points down. Look at what he's done on the season, about 24 fantasy points per game, but he has dealt with a lot of injuries that kind of limited his minutes throughout the season. Obviously, played better since Zach LaVine's been out. And going against Memphis Grizzlies tonight, it's going to look like a really good opportunity for him. Currently, I have him projected for 28 fantasy points tonight. There is also the risk that he does get traded today to a contender, so keep that in mind. But, if he's still on the Chicago Bulls by the time we get to lock, definitely a guy that I do have quite a bit of interest in. And, at the same time, the Bulls could be trading away a guy like DeMar DeRozan today, which, would free up some usage for guys like Alex Caruso, for guys like Kobe White, Nikolai Vucevic, and a couple other players as well. And then we moved down to small forward. This was just another one that I want to throw in there. It's kind of a cheap play. It got Chris Dunn here. Utah may or may not trade away some of these players. They are up to 500 now at this point in time. So you think if they were trending downwards once again, even though they probably be looking to move on from like Jordan Clarkson, maybe Colin Sexton, and that would really benefit a guy like Chris Dunn. But he's been playing a little bit more minutes as of late, $4,000, looking for 20 points. Averaging about 18 so far in the season. Currently, I'm projected for 21, 22 tonight. Has a little bit upside for more if he does get those minutes once again. And then at power forward, we're going to go with Pascal Siakam, $8,400, looking for 42 out of him. Averaging just under 40 so far in the season. He's been playing pretty well with this Pacers team overall. It's a team that does like to play pretty fast. They are going against the Golden State Warriors tonight, who also do like to play at a pretty good pace. So should be a pretty back and forth game. Should be a pretty high scoring game. Definitely like Pascal Siakam in this matchup overall. And I currently have him projected for about 44, 45 points for tonight's slate overall. And then at center, we're going to go with Wendell Carter Jr. here. Just kind of a cheap option. There is probably some other options that could pop up as the day moves along, though. But at $5,300, we're looking for 26, 27 points down, averaging about 24.5 so far in the season. Pretty attractive matchup versus the San Antonio Spurs. It's a pace-up spot just in general. If Victor Wembanyama doesn't play, you're getting Zach Collins, and it's going to be a favorable matchup for Wendell Carter just in general. And there is also the case that maybe Zach Collins and Victor Wembanyama will sit out the back-to-back. Wouldn't completely rule it out, and then you're either getting like Mamu or Derek Barlow, and it's going to be even better. So definitely do like Wendell Carter and his upside tonight. Currently, I'm projected for about 28 fantasy points, but definitely does have some upside for more at the same time as well. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do have this year, you got $22,900 remaining, just over $7,600 per player. So a good amount of money left over, whether you want to pay up for a stud player. We got Luka on the slate. We got Giannis. So definitely 2 high-end guys to go there. And then there's some other really good players as well. So definitely a lot of different ways that we can approach tonight's slate overall. Should be a pretty interesting one. Obviously, there is going to be a lot of chaos that probably ensues as the day moves along with some of these trades for the trade deadline just in general. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there as well. So at the point guard position, we're going to go to Miles McBride on the FanDuel side as well. So on FanDuel, he's $4,700. You're looking for 23, 24 out of him. So if Jalen Brunson's out there, this is probably going to be a pick that changes just because that's probably going to be what we're getting out of him is about 23 or so on the FanDuel side just in general. Coming off the bench, playing decent-sized minutes still, but if Jalen Brunson's out, that's kind of where the real value lies. In that starting lineup, playing big minutes at that point in time, would expect 28, 29 out of him tonight just in general, and that would make him look like a really good value play overall. Then at shooting guard, I ultimately ended up on his teammate, Dante DiVincenzo, $8,100. Sounds like a ridiculous price tag for him. But he's been playing like 40 minutes a night. He's been playing really well as of late. 4 out of his last 5 games, he's had at least 40 points. And if Jalen Brunson misses tonight, he's going to get all the usage that he can handle. So I definitely do like him quite a bit. Once again, kind of the main concern here would probably be the pace of this game just because the Knicks like to play slow. Dallas kind of likes to play slow. So could be a little bit slower overall just in general. Could be a lower scoring game. But still like the upside that he does present. It's a pick that could very much change throughout the day, though, especially as we do get other values that do open up. Then at small forward, we're going back to Royce O'Neal, $4,900, looking for 24, 25 out of him. Probably playing big minutes, even if he's coming off the bench. Once again, we did see Ben Simmons come back in their most recent game and play like 20 minutes in that game. He's kind of on, a minutes limit once again. So Royce O'Neal feels like a pretty safe play overall. Once again, we're looking for about 24, 25. Currently I'm projected for about 25, 26 tonight. So it looks like a solid option there. Obviously a pick that could change throughout the day if we do get some other value that starts to look a little bit better as well. And then at power forward, we're going to Pascal Siakam once again, $8,300, looking for 41, 42 out. I'm averaging about 38.5 so far in the season. Good pace-up spot versus the Golden State Warriors today. He's been playing pretty well since he's been with this Pacers team overall. Definitely do like the upside that he does present today overall. Currently, I'm projected for 44. Could have a little bit of upside for more at the same time as well, though. And then last but not least, we're going back to Maxi Kleber at the center position today, $4,600. If he goes out there, if he's playing well, playing 30-plus minutes a night, if he does a little bit more than score the ball, unfortunately, he didn't get very many rebounds in their most recent game, but Luka was out there getting 18 rebounds too. So a little bit of give and take there. You're probably not going to get 18 rebounds out of Luka tonight. Hopefully a couple of those bounce Maxi Kleber's way. This is a pick that could change throughout the day if we do get some other value that does open up at center, though. So just keep that in mind. But at $4,600, you're only looking for 23 out. Currently, I'm projected for about 22, 23. So it looks like a decent option at this point in time. Could have a little bit of upside for more at the same time as well, though. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you have $29,400 remaining, just over $7,300 per player. So a little bit of room and flexibility to be had there. Obviously, once again, I cannot stress it enough. NBA trade deadline today, there's going to be players on the move. There's going to be value that does open up throughout the day. So we're going to be getting creative with our lineups, especially as we do get closer to lock. So definitely make sure you're checking out for that updated core, as well as all the news as I posted throughout the day. But with that being said, these are my core picks for both FanDuel and DraftKings for today, Thursday, February 8th. As always, if you have any questions related to NBA DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments below, and I will get back to you as quickly as possible. I do ask that you please note whether those questions are more FanDuel or DraftKings specific, just so I can best help you as quickly and efficiently as possible. And then, as always, I'll be posting all the injury updates down in the comments throughout the day. I'll be posting as many of the trades as I can put down there as well, especially when it comes to the guys actually playing on tonight's slate overall. It's going to make it a very, very chaotic day, but it should make for a very interesting DFS slate overall. And then after that, as always, I will be posting all the starting lineups as they do come out throughout the night as well. And then last but not least, I will have my updated core about 15 to 20 minutes prior to lock listed down in the comments as a pinned comment. If there's any other additional changes after that point in time, I will leave them as a reply to the pinned comment as well. So definitely be sure to look out for that, as well as all those other updates that will be coming out throughout the day. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we only have NBA DFS going on in terms of the core pick videos Monday through Friday. But when we get to the end of March, we'll be doing some MLB DFS and hopefully some UFL DFS for the DraftKings side as well. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Parlay Play, and Prize Picks. If you are a brand new user to any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, you make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Parlay Play and Prize Picks is a 100% match up to $100 on your initial deposit. And then for BetUS, it's a 125% match on your initial deposit up to $2,500. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. Helps you guys out a little bit as you start that journey. Helps me out a little bit on the side as well. And then with that being said, if you have any other additional questions related to that, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in NBA DFS tonight.